combat veterans in Vietnam, that was one of the issues that prompted the United States military establishment to decide it might be time to bring the boys home. Too many low-ranking officers in positions that could determine an entire platoon's living or dying were winding up themselves being killed by their own people. This is something that was not reported, so I've been told, by the press, and it was something that the United States military kept rather quiet. So I don't know. I have no idea why this is not happening, except for the fact that when you don't have a draft, and it is an all-volunteer force, and in the United States Army now, and I don't know about the other branches of the military, but the Army has lowered its standards to the point where it takes convicted felons and people who can't pass IQ tests to get into the service. That's how desperate Bush is. The United States Army is now also taking people who are borderline nuts. I don't know the right terms, so don't. If you're a psychologist, don't send me an email busting me for using a slang term like nuts. Okay, but they're borderline. Not borderline personality defects, but they're not the kind of people you want in the military. But Bush, with his pressure, with his mismanagement of everything this stupid man has touched, including the military, insists that the military lower its standards. Just get me the bodies. I don't care. And now they're talking about an invasion in Pakistan. And as Reggie points out, if our people go there, you know what they'll be called? Huh? Say it louder. That's right. Advisors. We have them in how many countries? Don't we have an entire operation in Colombia? Little country in northern South America. Then Michael writes regarding militarism, hi Mike, much as I love bashing Bush and much of this administration deserves it, I wonder if you could spend a day or even an hour per week reminding listeners of the big picture, i.e. that a lot of this mess we're in transcends party and is almost a natural result of the momentum of the good old military-industrial complex, or just plain old militarism. Our country and culture have been steeped in it for at least a century, if not longer, and especially during the latter 20th century. Read and then recommend Chalmers Johnson's brilliant trilogy published by the American Empire Project. As evil as these repugnants are, I sometimes wonder how different things would be right now if Gore and Lieberman had gotten in 2000. We'd probably already be in Iran the way Lieberman froths at the mouth. Michael. And here is something that a lot of you have emailed me about today. I'll just pick this one from Eric. Mike, it's getting very serious. I served on a federal grand jury in Portland, Oregon 2 years ago. We indicted, against my vote, the so-called Portland 7 terror cell. I don't condone what the so-called Portland 7 did, but what the U.S. government did and is doing is infinitely worse. Bush signed an executive order yesterday that essentially outlaws political dissent. Quote, any person determined by the Secretary of the Treasury in consultation with the Secretary of State and the Secretary of Defense to have committed or to pose a significant threat of committing a threat of interfering with operations in Iraq, yada, 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 will have all assets frozen and property will be seized if the Bush administration thinks it should be seized. Now that last bit Eric adds, in his voice, not the executive order. He points out that all the citizens currently incarcerated because of their so-called terrorist activities are, according to this new directive, are conspirators or persons, quote, deemed to pose a significant threat, end quote. What this executive order amounts to, Eric writes, is the authorization for preemptive strikes against citizens who, quote, pose a significant threat, end quote. Now, the executive order, you can get it online. Just go to whitehouse.gov in the news releases section, and it's there. It was just issued yesterday, I believe. And trying to